But one may ask, what is sin? What is sin? Well, sin is disobedience to God in any manner, shape, or form. It may be breaking one of the 10 commandments. For instance, murder. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13 states, "You shall not murder." Have you ever committed murder? If you have sinned against God. Adultery. Exodus chapter 20, verse 14 states, "You shall not commit adultery." The sin of adultery is committed when a person has sex with another who is already married. Fornication is having sex before marriage. Have you ever committed adultery or fornication? If you have sinned against God. Stealing. Exodus chapter 20, verse 15 states, "You shall not steal." Have you ever stolen anything? If you have sinned against God. Coveting. Exodus chapter 20, verse 17 states, "You shall not covet." Coveting occurs when a person has a strong desire to obtain something that belongs to another person with an improper motive. Have you ever coveted anything? If you have sinned against God. Next, using God's name as a swear word. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7 states, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain." Let me ask you a question. Have you ever used the name of God or the name of Jesus Christ as a swear word? If you have sinned against God. It's also important to understand that you can sin with your actions and also by your thoughts. Now, you may have never committed the sin of murder, but you may have committed the sin of anger. Have you ever lighted up in anger at your spouse or lashed out in anger at a child, a coworker, or someone else? Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 through 22 state, "You have heard that the ancients were told, 'You shall not commit murder,' and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you," Jesus speaking, "that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court." Also, you may have never committed the physical act of adultery or fornication, but you may have allowed immoral thoughts to linger in your mind. Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 28 state, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you," Jesus speaking, "that everyone who looks on a woman to lust for her has committed adultery with her already in his heart." Finally, sin can be active rebellion or passive indifference. Active rebellion is where you clearly understand that a certain activity is wrong, but knowingly and willfully engage it in any way. Passive indifference is where you come to the point in your life where you no longer even care about keeping God's commandments. In summary, it's important to understand that the charge that God has brought is so broad that it is undeniable. It is self-evident that every person has sinned against God at some point in their life. This includes me, and it also includes you.